Thank you very much to attend today's webinar. Today's webinar topic is fascinating topic, NFT for the IP monetization. You maybe someone maybe heard about the NFT or maybe not familiar with the NFT, but we have like expert in the field, and then today's speaker, including me, are all lawyers. So the statistics that I counted in the register attended is actually more than half actually lawyers and some other practitioners in IP space. So we maybe deliver to you from the like a basic to the more advanced one that recently that for example IPwe and I also developing some monetization platforms. So you'll have opportunity to learn about that. Okay, so most basic things that I already put in the chat. So if you want some communication, then you can look at it in the chat, and then I give you the schedule and everything there, and also you can download the presentation. So all three speakers' presentation will be there. And I will start a few introduction of sharing my screen first. Okay, so the schedule that after my introduction is to comment on Pig. He's one of the like expert, early adopter among lawyers in NFT. So he is a pioneering work. So he will deliver talk about NFT and Emergence IP tokenization. And then I think I like this one because I'm also a lawyer, but the lawyers not much, except that they are the cryptocurrency like lawyers, but they talk about tokenization. But I was delighted when I see the topic because I was like a patent attorney, and he is also the patent attorney. So I like this kind of the terminology used among the patent attorneys. And then the second topic will be the like fascinating Erich Spangenberg. He's really famous guy in IP monetization. If you're in the IP monetization space, everybody know about his name. And then unfortunately he cannot show up today in person. So we had a meeting yesterday. So I recorded his presentation. So I replay his presentation. And after that, I will talk about more advanced topic like how actually can make in a systemic way. Like that's when I designing and developing the platform architecture. And then we have some like a Q&A discussion time. Okay, so we'll stop sharing. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Cameron. So Cameron, why don't you start your presentation?
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you, Alex. So I'm going to be talking about NFTs and how they can be used to monetize intellectual property. And so intellectual property generally covers 4 different types. There are patents, which cover inventions. There are trademarks for things like brand names and logos. Then there's copyrights for anything that's fixed in a tangible medium, any type of work of art, music, books, things like that. And then there's also trade secrets, which is kind of an alternative to patents. Instead of disclosing your invention to the public, you can keep it a secret. And if you maintain certain protections over that secret, then you have intellectual property rights over that. And one example of that is the Coca-Cola formula has been protected as a trade secret for something like 100 years. But currently, there are a lot of issues with monetizing IP. I'm going to talk specifically about patents, but many of these issues come up for all types of IP. So one main thing is that patents can be very difficult to value. They're illiquid. There's not exactly a marketplace where people can see different patents have specific values, and it's relatively rare that a patent does get monetized So it's difficult to determine the value, and it's difficult to monetize a patent when you want to. And then in the few situations where patents are monetized, many of the licensing and settlement agreements occur behind closed doors, and this prevents the public from learning the terms. It's something like 2% or less of patents end up going through a litigation, and then of that, most of them end up being settled behind closed doors. So it's really a very small amount that anyone can see what the royalty rates ended up being for a particular patent. Another issue is that patents have more value in a large portfolio than individually. For example, I think about a decade ago, Google purchased a portfolio from Motorola of something like 10,000 patents. Companies generally like to purchase a bundle, thinking that a few of them will have most of the value and the rest won't be able to be used in an infringement suit or sold or licensed. So because of that, if a company has just a few patents or an individual inventor just has one, it becomes very difficult to monetize without having this portfolio. Additionally, the marketplace for a patent is typically limited to direct competitors. You generally aren't able to try to sell or license a patent to individual investors or to small companies. It would typically be a company who might be infringing that patent or who is in that business and is interested in doing the same business and wanting the intellectual property there. Another big issue is that infringement suits can cost millions of dollars. So this is pretty cost prohibitive for small companies or individual inventors, even if they can identify an infringer who they're very confident infringes the patent and can result in a big lawsuit. They might not be able to put up the upfront costs for the lawsuit. Now, NFTs solve a lot of these issues, and I'm going to discuss this. So for one, NFTs provide a clear record of ownership, licensing deals, and encumbrances on a patent via the blockchain. Because the blockchain is public, anyone can see who the owner of the NFT is that corresponds to the IP. They can see licensing deals that were made with these NFTs and encumbrances. And this is a big deal because it allows for people to determine title and doesn't require the same kind of costly type of title search that you have in the outside of this environment. NFTs can also be fractionalized. So this allows IP holders to sell shares of the intellectual property to multiple buyers. Generally, patents can cost anywhere from tens of thousands to millions of dollars. And so that's really limiting the amount of companies that can acquire patents or a patent portfolio. But by being able to sell shares, you can sell a small amount to several different companies or even to individual investors. Additionally, as I mentioned before, litigation funding can be difficult to find when a lawsuit can cost millions of dollars. But here, what a company can do is they can create an NFT that represents their IP, sell a fraction of that NFT, so then they basically create a partnership with the buyer in the IP and use the proceeds to fund the litigation. This can also create a liquid marketplace similar to the marketplaces you have now for digital art NFTs like Bored Apes or CryptoPunks. And this liquid marketplace would allow for people to do some price discovery and have a much better idea of what individual patents or small portfolios are worth. Buyers also might want to speculate and purchase partial interests of several patents or portfolios or other types of IP similar to how people have been speculating with digital art. And once one buyer purchases an IP asset or a share of an asset and gets a great return, that might lead to several other buyers becoming interested. Another interesting thing that NFTs allow you to do is currently with a private company, most people aren't allowed to invest in that company unless they're accredited investors. But if most of the value of the company is the company's IP, and the IP is in an NFT, someone could purchase a portion of the fraction of the NFT and then get essentially a share of the company, or be able to invest in the company this way. Additionally, this reduces transaction costs and really simplifies the transaction process. Typically, when a patent or trademark is sold now, contracts need to be drawn up. There's a lot of back and forth between lawyers. But with NFTs, they can be listed on a marketplace and for a particular price. And once that price in cryptocurrency is sent from a buyer, the NFT is automatically transferred, and there's almost no transaction cost besides for some network fees on that particular blockchain. Now, in addition to these many benefits, there are some drawbacks that I think are worth considering. For one, NFTs have not been tested in court as conferring legal ownership rights. So even though it would appear that if the NFT represents ownership in intellectual property, because it hasn't been tested in court, there's nothing that says legally you're the owner of that property. Patent ownership and trademark ownership is also already recorded in the patent office. So some naysayers may say that this is kind of duplicative, it's already being recorded, but there's no obligation that you have to record the ownership in the patent office. And so unlike NFTs, where every time the NFT is transferred, that has to be recorded on the chain, patent ownership or trademark ownership isn't necessarily being recorded at the USPTO. One other issue is that there's many different blockchains that support NFTs. So there's the Ethereum blockchain, there's the Flow blockchain, Wax, Hedera Hashgraph, and probably a few others. So multiple NFTs could be minted for the same IP asset on different blockchains, and you could have some title issues there. Additionally, ownership transfers can be made outside of the NFT, so off of the blockchain where the NFT is not being transferred, but the IP asset is being transferred in the traditional way through a contract. And so the NFT holder might have actually transacted and doesn't own the underlying IP. And as I mentioned before, most settlement deals happen behind closed doors and they're not made public, and companies might not want to open this up and publicly identify their licensees and the royalty rates. So right now, NFTs are being used to monetize IP in a few different ways. IBM and IPwe have partnered to mint NFTs for patents on IBM's blockchain, and Erich is going to talk about that in a few minutes. There's also another marketplace created by RMDS Labs exclusively for science and technology IP. That marketplace is currently in development, but it looks like they're using it for patents, but also for selling data sets, machine learning algorithms, different types of IP. And then you can also see right now on OpenSea, US patent 10.025.797 has been listed as an NFT for sale. Another important thing to consider is that NFTs, when they've been transferred, it's been kind of unclear what IP is being transferred with it. So with digital art, with things like Bored Apes and CryptoPunks, the buyer has the right to resell that and has the right to display their work, but it's unclear in many of those instances what copyrights they're receiving by purchasing that art. And so Andreessen Horowitz has been working on setting an industry standard for transferring IP via NFTs and including some licensing terms. Now, their licensing terms are specific to copyright, but additional licensing terms can always be added and modified to include patent or trademark rights that would be baked into the smart contract, so that way everyone can see exactly what rights are being transferred. And so Andreessen Horowitz right now has come up with 6 different licenses. They're similar to the Creative Commons licenses. And as I mentioned, they're baked directly into the smart contract. The license, it's called the Can't Be Evil license. I think that's a takeoff on the Don't Be Evil Creative Commons license. And it includes 6 different options for people to choose from, basically transferring the right to copy, display, and distribute the NFT, to use the NFT for commercial use, to modify and adapt or create a derivative work for the NFT, and also to sublicense it. And in some of these, the purchaser gets an exclusive right where only they have the copyright protection to basically reproduce this and make derivative works, or in others, they can have non-exclusive rights where maybe the original creator also has the rights to reproduce and to sublicense. And additionally, some of these have termination clauses for if the NFT is being used for hate speech. And now I'm going to turn things over to Erich.
Oh, thank you, Amira. Yeah, actually, you give us some like insight about what is advantages using NFT for the IP monetization, and also like there is some drawback. And then Erich and I, like how actually the can resolve the kind of some drawback, and then you get some hint that how actually the technically then we can elaborate that aspect to make NFT more like can resolve the kind of issues. So I will, as I told you, that Erich and I have a meeting yesterday, and then I pre-recorded his presentation, so I will play his presentation. Okay, share my screen first.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you having me on your cast today. And it's good to be here. And thank you for the audience for paying attention. I just got a few minutes. I wanted to talk to you about IPwe digital assets and how we're using NFTs in the IP space. So first, to give people context, I thought I'd start with a little bit of background. My name is Erich Spangenberg. I was a founder of a large licensing company, trolling company, depending on your perspective, called IP from 2003 to 2013. Invested heavily in predictive analytics, started in 2007, sold that business off in 2013, and then kept the predictive analytics business, used that for a short strategy that we executed on with Kyle Bass. And then in about 2017, I became familiar with Bitcoin. And like everybody else, I was fascinated by it, but really didn't know much about it. Sometime in the fall of 2017, I discovered this thing called CryptoKitties, which for me was the first NFT. Maybe there were NFTs earlier, like I read about Colorcoin and whatnot, but the first one I was familiar with was CryptoKitties. And my initial reaction to it was, hey, this is interesting, but this can't be why Satoshi published the white paper. Like there has to be, an enterprise use case for this, large corporate use case for this. And, I need to figure that out. So now fast forward into 2018, I teamed up with a couple of people that I worked with at IP and Brian Berman. And we started thinking about what we could do in the blockchain space. And that epiphany probably came to me sometime in late 2018, around December of 2018. And the idea is that we could combine what we'd been doing in the predictive analytics AI space with blockchain. And the idea is that because the information would be in a standardized format on the blockchain, it would be easier to get the data and run it and run analysis. And this was a really high level idea. And it started to take shape in January of 2019, when we were fortunate enough for IBM to pick IPwe to run through their accelerator programs. So as a result of this, became much more familiar with blockchain and much more familiar with sort of what the technology capabilities were. And IBM was wonderful. They would spend 3 days a week with us in different cities, and we'd have complete access to their executive team. And so that's about the time I started to become really interested in NFTs and said, hey, what can we really do with these? And why would they be important? And we made the usual progression from Ethereum and stumbled over that because of the gas cost, Hyperledger and Hyperledger Fabric, and thought that was actually a pretty cool solution, and started to build out in Hyperledger what it was that we wanted to do. And so the idea is that what was important was that the AI component would lower the discovery cost, like what information is in that patent that a business person needs to know, and how could we extract that information most efficiently, most cost effectively, without engaging hundreds of humans to do it. And then separately, what could we do with that information that would overall impact favorably either commercialization rates, financing rates, or frankly in general utilization rates. So we came up again working closely with IBM, came up with a bunch of ideas that I won't spend too much time on today. But one of them is that the NFT would be the central component on that. So I'll give you some indication as to how this works. So again, IPwe digital assets are our version of the NFT. They run on Casper. Casper is a public-private blockchain that we think is best suited for enterprise and SMEs for a bunch of reasons I won't bore your audience with. But the key is that we extract data from these patents using some of the great data sources, great extraction technology that we've developed since 2007. And then we can record that to the individual assets NFT. So let's take a patent, not a patent application, this particular example. There'll be 20 fields of data that we can put on there. And then what we can do that's interesting is that it can be verified. So the first step is that the company verifies it. The second step is that we verify it. So if it doesn't match with a public record, for example, we find what we call an anomaly, and then we get it verified. And why is that important? So the NFT doesn't need to be the ultimate source of truth. Credibility will determine a lot of things in the go forward world. I think that we were a little bit over optimistic as to how and what the capabilities truly were of blockchain in the very early days of blockchain. But verified data, particularly where you're verifying it primarily for your own purposes, is critically important. So what happens is that key aspects, key elements that are abstracted, the ownership, how long, what's the life of the patent, what's the quality rating on it that we give it. Is it a standard essential patent? Is there any transaction history associated with it that the company wants to make public? Some proxy on value, and then some rating, all of which we provide. That the company can decide to make that information public. Most of it is, or they can make the decision, for example, in the case of transactional history, either because of confidentiality obligations or because that's what they choose to do, is to populate it with private information that only they have. In fact, IPwe doesn't see it either. The only people who see it are the company and the people with access and authority at the company to see it. That then becomes NFT'd on the Casper blockchain, and we can subsequently update the fields in the future if we need to. But that's what drives what we call our smart intangible asset management platform. which gives out information, and then it facilitates these transactions. But it also facilitates things like, diligence and having the information all in one place. But the key here is that it's verified information. It's not just some information populated in a spreadsheet someplace. And so it's incredibly useful and drives down transaction costs. The reason that we think the companies are taking to this as quickly as they are, and the uptake on this has been pretty impressive. We'll have a big announcement on this in just before Thanksgiving. Is that it starts to abstract the complexity out of the patent, and really as this asset starts to shift, and it absolutely is shifting, where finance people pay more attention to it, and other people in the company start to pay attention to it. It's a way for the company players to communicate with each other. The patent professional and the lawyers can use it for whatever their purposes are, and the business people and business leaders can use it for whatever their purposes are. It in fact will lower license costs and reduce transaction complexity. And through one of our products, Smart Pools, where we now have in less than 8 months over 500 members. I think we've proven the use case. We prove his use case on that. And one of the things we're most excited about is that the companies, and again, most companies will keep this private, is that they can start to record the history of value on it, which starts to give them a much better insight as to how this asset is performing, and they can start applying, regular asset management metrics to it, and metrics beyond just, how many they have. So one of the things we're really excited about is that the roadmap on this. So today, what the NFT does is, the IPwe digital asset does is that it stores critical public, and if the company chooses, private verified information in one place. Instead of having to search through multiple databases, you can find it all on that particular NFT, going all the way back to conception. If that's what you want to do, you can hash to it, and we'll store an IPFS, whatever related information you want, whether you want to keep your inventor notebooks, not keep your inventor notebooks, store the file history on it or not. We let you do that. And we actually work with the company to make sure that there's no anomalies in the form of information that's public that doesn't match up with whatever information on the company records. Classic example would be that the assignment records wouldn't be in accord. And we can make sure that information gets fixed and gets properly recorded. And it actually enables a level of analytics that otherwise wasn't previously possible. And when I mean analytics, I don't mean like, list of patents that, patent professionals and lawyers love. I mean things like ratings that business people are going to be able to use, which we think are important as this asset starts to cross over into other areas, and particularly finance. On a roadmap, and what we see, what's going to be happening soon, in the early part of January 2023, we'll launch a IPwe digital asset specifically designed for trade secrets. It's a way to capture them. We were a little bit surprised at how most companies do that. I thought that everybody kept it in the safe like they did for the recipe for Coke or whatever, but apparently that's not how it works. So we think that this is a better solution for that, but also can capture related IP either in classic formats, copyright, trademarks, or more importantly, is an easy way to capture related know-how related to either a trade secret and or a know-how related to a patent. Coming soon, and we have the capability now, but we don't utilize it. Is that our tokens will be able to issue subsidiary tokens that evidence licensing rights, liens, or some type of transactional interest. That'll launch in Q2 of 2023, and your licensing right, for example, can be evidenced by an NFT if that's what you prefer. A lot, and the license agreement can be hashed to that. And then a ways off, and this will be until a point in time until the legal picture becomes much clearer. So we deal primarily with larger companies who, from a regulatory perspective, are appropriately so extremely conservative. So trading or anything that looks vaguely like a security is definitely not of interest to them. In time, those issues will get worked out, and we'll figure out what's going on. It'll be easier for everyone, but that's probably a few years off. And we have the capability built into them to facilitate both third-party interest, fractional ownership interest through the NFT that we think will be exciting. So what you're seeing here is that ultimately the digital transformation of IP, we thought it would happen, at some point in time, and it was a little bit longer in coming than we thought when we started IPwe in 2018. But it's a reality, and you'll see more of it as we go forward over the coming months. It's now a reality. It took a little bit of time, but I'm excited to be part of it, and excited to be at the front of this with the rest of my team. Alex, thank you for the time today.
Oh, thank you very much for your fascinating presentation.
Yep.
Okay, I will start my sharing. Okay, so Erich, this IPwe NFT asset management and monetization platform actually that handles several issues. Actually, the Cameron talk about it. So, for example, that they use some of the a combination in hybrid of the a public and private blockchain. And so that actually, if they want to be keep secret some information like licensing royalties or something, that they can be include the information in the private network. So that's for example, IBM Hyperledger Fabric is a private. So only invitations that you can invite to some of the potential licensor or the licenses to have some negotiation, and all the information can be kept in a secret blockchain. So and then in case that you want to be more open wise to some more approach by some general licenses, then you can use the public blockchain, and then you can put it in the open market like a traditional NFT marketplace, and then you can do some transaction or licensing jobs. So I really fascinated, and he mentioned several things actually that require some technical details. So that's why I have my presentation to explain about what he mentioned in actually how they can be implemented technically. Okay, so okay, so I will start my presentation to give you all. Maybe now I can give you all the detail because it requires a lot of the technical details, but I will give you the snapshot, the actual implementation, actually how the implement, and then it can be walkable. And then as a comment and talk about the beauty of the NFT licensing is efficiency, low cost. So effectiveness and efficiency, how can I achieve in using the digital technology? So that's one with my topic. Okay, so I will share my screen again. Okay, so first I will explain about what is meant by the NFT monetization. So basic thing, you should understand what is NFT. It's a non-fungible token. So it's a cryptocurrency type token. So it will be recorded in the blockchain like Ethereum or like a Bitcoin type or whatever that there is we call the blockchain mainnet. So they with a decentralized node that they care about the consensus, everything, the mechanism. And then the difference between the traditional token like Ethereum or the Bitcoin and the NFTs is that they are non-fungible. So non-fungible means that they are unique in value. So actually that they can be exchanged into another one. So for example, you have a coin or one maybe the $1 the payment or something like the $100 like that, and you can pay any different type of the $100, but NFT should be unique, so they cannot be replaced by others. So so one thing that NFT is not the entity itself. For example, that we have a patent, and then what is mean by the minting NFT means that we represent of this IP, usually the value of this IP. So So NFT is the digital representation of your asset, whether it is digital or the physical. For example, you can be many NFT for the real estate, and also like it can be tangible or intangible. So NFT is anything that have an asset with value, they can represent. So NFT is something like some proof that you own something of this entity, usually the representing value. So that's the fundamental thing you have in mind. And then how you do monetize NFT. So this is not just for the IP, but the NFT can represent any asset. So for example, they can represent art, and then they can represent your fashion design, they can represent your music, they can represent your real estate, they can represent any asset has value. So so once you have a NFT, that means that usually the creating of the NFT we call minting. The minting means that you issue some of the like a standard form of the like the block, we call like some block, and then you have some information, unique information about what this property means and what is unique about something. So you put it in there and then you store in the blockchain. We usually call metadata. And then, but actually your original asset, for example, you have a patent and maybe your patent is recorded in the USPTO, or maybe you have a copy of your patent in your local server, but this NFT is not this asset itself. So they have like some like they call a hash mechanism that actually they know about where actual asset is located. So blockchain only contain only the pure information, and then this information is used. Let me see. Used to like a proof of your ownership something, whether it is like a asset ownership, or it's a representing of your like IP right, or the copyright, patent, whatever. So the basic way to monetize is sales. So you can sell your patent, right? It's a patent acquisition or something like that. You can sell. So you can, there are many open marketplace. So usually this for the not the IP, because IP requires more sophisticated way to handling the information that are commonly mentioned about it, especially the patents. So, but usually the other type of NFT can be you can mint and then put it in the marketplace. It's like a commerce marketplace type, and there are many like open marketplace you can sell it. And then another thing is licensing. The typical licensing is a music licensing. So recent trend is there's a music community, they're using NFT to licensing their music, like a music, there is a resources or the like a recording, whatever the type of it, they have a traditional way to licensing it. They have some standard ways of royalties, and then they can use NFT to transfer their like right or some licensings. And the financing that this is the one actually that you may heard from Erich, that is actually the IPwe has planned to like launching some monetization mechanism called fractional ownership. So fractional ownership is that because NFT is unique, so they can represent one entity, like one asset whole. But actually, if you want to like sell it or license it, but you can like fractionalize the part of your value, and so that actually you only buy some part of some of the licensing or some part of your like ownership. This is a kind of we share the like a stock, right? We buy stock, but we buy the stock doesn't mean that we buy the company, but we share some portion of the like our like ownership of this company through the stock selling. This is the same thing, so we can use that. And then there are many kind of like we call fintech. So the financial technologies can use in this space that they can use this kind of the like a financing technical like aspect of financing to utilizing this kind of the IP NFT monetization. So I'm going to introduce some aspect in my future webinar. So I'll introduce. I already have several webinar for this one, but I know that statistically we are lawyers. I'm also a lawyer. You're lawyers, but I'm more like have experience in technology development. So maybe I'm a better position than you, but it requires some understanding of the basic things. But the fundamental thing is that how you can monetize it. we can bring like a financial technology, usually they call like a decentralized finance technology, we call DeFi. So we can use DeFi to monetize like a licensing automatically, how they developing the value. Okay, so next one, this is a significant part because you want licensing or sell whatever monetize. Actually, you need to provide some value. What actually your value IP, and then the issue is that it's very hard to, yeah, it's a traditionally it's the same thing. The IP valuation is very hard, especially for like usually we know about the market approach. Them is like a very similar, like a comparable, like a transaction is IP licensing or IP sales, and then you can use it. But that kind of information is often rare. So it's very hard to get this kind of the market information. And also like income approach. And then there are several like another thing that recently we have like using the AI, because Erich talked about the AI analytics. So we can use like prediction analytics to use a statistical like sales or statistical licensing data to like to have this one. And okay. And then also a very important thing is that in some case, a highly specialized asset, like for example, art or the antique, then usually it's very difficult to have a monetize it through some standard way to like a valuation. So there is a type of the expert like appraisers, and then also we use the like auction type. So you can use that kind of thing. So the most issue is actually the NFT valuation. And then particularly I'm interested is how actually can this kind of like a record pricing, if you want to like provide what the royalty like, what will be the future like generation of the asset. So what will be the like income generation potential, whatever that how much actually the reasonable price you can offer to your potential licensees or the potential buyers using some way to like this technology I call DeFi that I explained you. Okay, so I will introduce what I'm working now on. So basically, I'm also IP lawyer, so I patent attorney, I'm in the New York State attorney, but I'm not only working for the IP NFT. I'm working for other, like for example, recently I'm working on in the fashion design. Fashion design usually the copyright, it's not the patent, and the music also copyright. In some cases, you have in the recent trend is metaverse. Metaverse is somewhere that there are a lot of the trademark is applications. So there are like a different type of IP actually involved in using the NFT monetization. So I'm developing depending on the asset type. So what kind of the most efficient way to actually monetize. So that I call it a monetization platform. So I design it and then implementing. So here is one example that I'm thinking about what can be done in using the modern digital technology. And especially it covered what the comment already talked about, the concern about the NFT licensing monetization issues. So for example, auditing layer is a traditional, is in any way, whatever you do in a traditional IP transition or whatever the IP licensing, you need to auditing. You need to, for example, Erich already talk about what is the like previous licensing history, and also like a comment talk about that the NFT can be minted in a different blockchain. So you should be, this is your job, that whether there is any problem with the like original assets, you need to be like find out. So this kind of thing you can do in the manually, and then you can do in the using the AI. So there are many kind of tools can use this one. So this is the auditing layer. Once you have an auditing layer, then you prove that this is a really clean asset to be monetized, and then you need to be like to meaning it. So that means that putting in the in the blockchain. That I mentioned that depending on your type of your like licensing, so you can choose the different type of the blockchain. So this is Ethereum. This is Polygon. Is another the very popular one. Hyperledger Fabric is a private one. So there are 100 actually the blockchain mainland you can choose. And another thing that important issue is actually I mentioned the NFT is only that included in the blockchain is the metadata, and the original data, for example, all the like information For example, if it is like a design and then it's a big like a movie, for example, movie, and the movie video itself is not in the blockchain. So you recent trend is that the usually that they put in the server or the like a cloud, but recent trend that they want to be more secure in the decentralized. So we call decentralized network type the like a storage. The one typical example is the IPFS. So they can place their like original data in a decentralized way, so to make more secure. And another important thing is that how actually assure that this is, for example, that you mint using the, for example, because the patent information is in public, right? And then you mint something that you have any kind of the ownership to that IP. And you just mint you develop your NFT, and then you want it in the marketplace. And how you can prove that? Like NFT is not proved actually that you are the original like developer of this IP, right? So only you can is manually look at it, whether it's a recording, is like a USPD side, or whether it's like a commercial, the code required to like you have a recording in a different state. But how you can check it? So actually, this is another technology actually that we call decentralized identification. So this is maybe the very highly technical, but there is I'd like to explain that there is some technology actually that you can handle this issue. So we can issue the credential to you that you are actually the original owner of this IP, and then whenever you transact, this record will be attached to whatever in the downstream of your transaction. So whole transaction record will be recorded, and then this record will indicate who actually the original, the owner. And this is one way to prove it. And this is very important because this is not just IP, but all the NFT is this kind of problem. There is scams that actually they just scam some of the famous art, and they just making like a digital art and then NFT and then try to sell it. So this is the most important thing in the we should be handling. And another thing is that the Erich told about the smart pool. Actually, if you are in the IP space, I'm also heavily involved in the standard asset patent pools. And then I also involved, like, for example, I early like years of 2010, so I'm heavily involved in the evaluation of the model patent for the acquisition. And then I work with a lot of the pool, like LTE or the 3G pools or something like that. The pooling of this went away in the like deceleration, the securitization. So you're pooling your some IP asset as a like a asset class, and then you make it as like some value of a package it, and then put it and then use it as a finance. Like, for example, this is your asset pool, and then also like a potential buyer, potential licenses to license whatever automatically using this the securitization. So this is one thing. But for the thing that you need to be very careful about it, whenever you put something in the blockchain and then issue some token, you should be careful about whether it is security or not. So where it is a security, it is under security like regulation in the SEC in the United States. So for example, that you want to be more in the safe harbor is that there is another mechanism to like rather than doing is like a token offering as IPO, there is a lightweight version that you can like reserve this is like regulation DS or A plus. Actually, the vehicle in the crypto guys is like a secret token offering, and then you can have this mechanism. So if you want to save your like pooling your NFT, and you want to make a securitize it, and you want to make monetize this is to invite some investors to your like NFT pools, then make sure that whether it's under scrutiny of the SEC, and then the safe harbor is to make this as like a security regulation compliance. And the valuation method that I already explained, that for example, patents actually I mentioned that it's very difficult to have like a traditional way. So usually the easiest way, maybe the most preferred way, is auction. But auction have several different types that you can choose among your depending on your asset type and your propose that what is the best way to auction this one. And also like for example traditional ways you can use the income market as a method. But I'm personally interested. I'm pretty much know about this valuation because I have a lot of experience in the patent licensing and acquisition, and then I also like develop like a claim chart. You evidence see the claim chart, and then depending on the like how much like your product infringing, and then you value something. But rather than doing actually, is there any more clever way? So that's the one actually that I mentioned of the financial technology you can do it. So there are out there this kind of technology is available. So we call decentralized financing technology. We call automatic market making. So it's automatically putting like your pool and then buyer sellers to get to there, and then they automatically transact something. So this kind of information maybe. If you attend my next webinar, I explain you because this is more particularly in technically high required high depth. And monetization layer is the same thing that you can monetize and pool, and then you can invite to like for example potential licensees or potential buyers to your like a platform, and then communicate. You can maybe like there are many types of, for example, you can like the peer-to-peer like a communication. So you're the potential licensor and the potential licensee, and then the platform can be matched to parties, and then they can negotiate manually. Or another way is to whether they can be automated. So recent trend that we call Web3. So it's like a web version 3 is a hot topic. So in the Web3, it's all thing is a decentralized, all thing will be automatically done in the smart contract. So this is one thing that also I developed, like how actually the automate this kind of process, licensing process automation through the smart contract is another thing that I'm heavily working on this space. So this is one actually my next webinar. So if you are really interested in tech shabby, I'm pretty much, because most of you may be in the patent attorney, so you're tech shabby. So if you want to understand more about how actually this kind of the financial technology can implement in the IP monetization in automation, then please attend this webinar. Okay, I'm done. Okay, so we have 6 minutes left. So we want to have like a free Q&A or discussion and comment for 6 minutes. So I want any volunteer to have a question or some comment or any kind of the like a discussion you want to do. Bob, do you have anything to do?
I have a question, which is often in patent licensing, as you know well, exclusivity versus non-exclusivity and rights of sub-license, field of use licensing are all common ways in which IP and IP portfolios get licensed. What is anybody on the panel's thinking about how these kinds of common licensing terms would be implemented through an NFT?
Basically, that's one. It cannot be automatic handle because usually the NFT using the standard form. For example, the most popular like blockchain mainnet is Ethereum. You may heard about it. And then Ethereum provider they call like a standard protocol. Actually, that you can write down the like a smart contract. So they call ERC 721 is one example, and 1155 is another one. But they only provide like a form. So you need to fill out. And then I think that Bob is very important question. The question is that the smart contract automatically can handle that kind of thing, right? So for example, you are the licensing to the something, then you need to specifically mention and in the legal domain in the smart contract. But it did not also guarantee it because nobody actually put in because smart contract is something happen, never dispute in the court, right? So whether you put in everything in the take care of by the smart contract and then something happened, and then you bring in the court and then nobody knows what it happened. But anyway, the precursor is that you need to provide every term and detail in your smart contract, right? So that's the only way. So for example, you want to like terms, and you mentioned about exclusivity or the like a non-exclusive regional one. You need to provide everything in there, right? And then recently there are a lot of the issues with this kind of for example, I mentioned about automation, that the issue is a lot of the like people are not legal savvy. That 99% of the working in the NFT, they don't know about what the legal consequence of their smart contract. And then they press whatever their meaning, and then they think about that they license something, but actually it is not. So for one of the beauty of the license, for example, in the patent, also like especially the copyright, and you are the original copyright owner, and then you put in your NFT in the marketplace, and it need to buy by someone, and it'll be like in the downstream, in the secondary or whatever the market will sell it. You guarantee that you actually have a right to have the royalty you need to have it. So on the downstream, actually you have a right to get the royalty, but it is not automatically like in the conjectured in the smart contract. So you need to be careful about it and how you can manage it actually in the whole downstream, actually the guarantee that kind of royalty is an issue. So it's very still early stage, and then that's why I'm heavily working on this space based on my 30 years experience in technology and also like legal experience. But this space really need like a collaboration between lawyers and technical guys and business guys to make it happen. This is like I'm not sure when, but maybe like a mainstream, like using bank, right? I'm not sure, but yeah, we need a lot of endeavor in the collaboration among lawyers and technical guys and the business person. Is there anything, a comment, any discussion? We still have 2 minutes more. Comment, do you have any comment? Final comment? 1 minute?
I don't think so. So to answer that Bob's question, I mean, I think you said it right, that it would be built in a smart contract. That hasn't been tested in courts, but I think the theory is that a smart contract will be treated the same as any other contract language. If it's computerized contract that's on a public blockchain and everyone can see this language, is publicly available, there's no reason that wouldn't be honored in court. But like you mentioned, it hasn't been tested, so we don't know exactly how it will play out.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, because it's worthwhile to explore new technology, right?
Right.
And then when I attended my law school, actually, in the first year, that the dean, I almost forget, because I'm not practicing actually. I'm a lawyer, but I'm mostly working in the innovation side and IP generation rather than in some legal practice. But whatever I remember is that whenever there is an innovation, the legal professional's job is to following the societal need, right? We need to support this innovation, right? So our job as a lawyer is supporting the society developing based on this innovation, right? And the NFT is a fantastic technology we need to explore, right? And we need to make this happen in real life. Is the lawyers also like the tech savvy or the business savvy about this kind of new technology, and how we can actually, based on our experience and expertise in the legal area, that to support this innovation to make society much better, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's time. Okay, so thank you again to attend today's webinar. Especially thank you to Kamera and Eric to deliver like a great insight of the NFT. And then I really make you as a pioneer in this space. And then I hope that more people are recognize this kind of the power of the NFT in the NFT space, in the IP monetization space. So I think that we are going to go, right? So let's see what will happen. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.